Well, we now have an expert talk on the topic AI and the future of work, the good, ambitious, and unknown. The session lays crucial focus on how business leaders can develop a working knowledge of how AI will be an enabler when it comes for human machine collaboration in completing a task. We also delve into current use cases and what are the key messages from research on the future. We have our speaker, Aamod Sathe, Director and Analytics Lead, Home and Work Meta. Aamod has worked for more than 18 years. He has more than 18 years of experience in building and mentoring high performance teams. He is passionate about creating data driven culture. He has in depth knowledge in digital ads, marketing, payments, and e commerce. Pleasure to have you here with us this evening. Aamod, over to you.
Thank you, Justin, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Aamod Sathe, and it is such a pleasure to be talking to you all on this topic on AI and the future of work. Just a little bit of background in my own words. So I have almost 2 decades of experience now working in the fields of data science and analytics, and now into this field of AI as it is evolving and becoming more and more accessible to consumers as well as practitioners. I currently serve as a director of data science and analytics at Meta Technologies, formerly Facebook, in the Reality Labs team. Reality Labs is the team that is currently working on building the metaverse. I should probably caveat by saying that everything I say here today in my talk is my personal opinion and my direction of where the field of AI and future of work is going. I am by no means a spokesperson for Meta. All right, cool. So with that out of the way, I was thinking about this topic quite a bit when we first brought this up on AI and the future of work. And I was discussing with the NASSCOM team about what is the current state, like what do they think this talk should entail. And one of the first problems we thought about was that even before we talk about how AI will impact the future of work, I think we need to talk a little bit about AI itself and its current sort of state and how it really has come alive right now with any applications that we use today. So let me tell you a story that kind of demonstrates this, right? So I happened to be in India last month or so. And I was traveling around, I was meeting with a lot of old friends, colleagues, industry people. And I was meeting with a few people who are very, very product savvy. They are tech people, they are in the technology industry. And the topic of AI came up. And when that comes up, I always like to tell the story of the self-driving car. That is one of my favorite AI applications because I've seen it work. I've sort of tried it out myself, and I think it's a real good package that has come already into the market. And so I was showing these people a video of myself driving on I-5 at about 80, 85 miles an hour in the self-drive mode, right? I wasn't doing anything, and the road, even though it was an interstate, was quite curvy. But the car was expertly handling all the curves, changing lanes, what have you. And I was, looking to impress my friends and showing them off this video and so on. And to my amazement, none of them were really impressed. It felt like I fell right flat on my face. And then one of them said, well, why do I need this AI? I have a driver that essentially does the exact same thing. And so this is a useless application. And I thought to myself, well, wait a second, maybe it is true, right? Many of the AI applications, at least that we see right now, are going to replace mundane applications that we already have, like driving, like making an appointment, as it was famously demonstrated in one of the Google I/O conferences and so on. And then I went home and I thought about this a little bit more, right? And when you think about this a little bit more deeply, you realize that the objection that my friend raised, although it seems logical at first, it really is not. Because yes, the AI itself is maybe initially replacing the mundane task of driving. However, you have to consider other benefits, right? AIs don't cut lanes. I remember in Mumbai, that is one of the biggest reasons why there are traffic jams and so on, that some people at least don't follow the lane discipline. AIs don't speed, they don't swerve in and out of traffic, and so on, dramatically reducing traffic congestion as well as accidents. The road repairs need to be less because the driving is within the specified limits, and so on and so forth. And there are so many other uses of this technology. And as I thought about it a little more, the reason I tell this story is not just to show off the fact that I have this video of myself driving on a self-driving car, but more to demonstrate the fact that many AI applications, at least to start with, fall in this category where it does not feel like the ROI is there, the justification for the investments needed, etc., are just not there. But in my opinion, they eventually end up being really, really valuable as we build on top of it. So you have to think about all AI applications in this way. It's a platform investment, and you sort of build on top of the platform. All right, now let's get back to our specific topic for today, AI and the future of work. Now, when I think about the future of work, that phrase, I like to divide it into and think about it as two parts of an equation. The first part, on the one hand, it is the how of the work. And the other part of the equation is what we need to do. So let's deal with them one by one. So let's first talk about the how of the future of work. How are we all going to work in the future? And I'm primarily referring here to knowledge workers, tech workers, whatever you want to call it, but I'm sure it eventually will spread to other vocations as well. And so when we think about how we are going to work, especially in this sort of endemic world, endemic, not a pandemic anymore, but an endemic corona world, and so on, the changes that we have brought in as a result of that, I am personally convinced that the future of work is hybrid. I personally work in a very hybrid fashion. Like I said, when I was in India, in the last few weeks, I talked to a lot of my friends who are in the tech industry, and pretty much all of them work in this hybrid way. Now, it is also important to differentiate what we mean by hybrid, right? Does this mean that we can all move to Hawaii or Goa or whatever your favorite vacation spot is and just sort of, live the dream? Probably not. That may not be possible for many people for a variety of reasons. And I think in-person work will still stay, but it is going to remain hybrid, which means that we will have a lot of flexibility in how we work, what times we choose to work. Can I choose a time where I can avoid the commute if I know the traffic patterns? Can I choose a day when I can bring all of my leadership team into office? So while we are there, we maximize our time together, so on and so forth. And so we will be this is the how of how I think the future of work will be. And so now, to support this how, we will need to change a lot of technologies around us that have been around for ages. Emails and chats and so on worked just fine when we were all in office sitting right next to each other and sort of collaborating. Now we need more technologies for co-presence, for virtual collaboration and things like that. In my opinion, AI will be a key force that will drive a lot of the technologies around these changes in various different forms. One form to think about would be the metaverse. Now, I, of course, am closely related to the metaverse, but everything I'm saying is very much public knowledge. And it's not just Meta. There are other companies that have demonstrated this as well. And if you've seen some of these demonstrations on YouTube, etc., what you'll realize is that it is really, really an immersive co-presence and co-working experience that will be part of this future of how we work. Not all, but part of it will be that. And, if you ask me, like, how will AI drive this, right? So I think AI will be a key building block in the work part of the metaverse. So think about simple things like spatial audio, right? When we are with our colleagues, one of the experience that drives this togetherness is the fact that when someone is sitting to my left, talks to me, turns to me and talks to me, there's eye contact, there is audio coming from a certain direction and so on, instead of, when you're on Zoom call and all the sort of video and audio is coming from one direction. Now, this will require a lot of AI to get it right? It will not be perfect initially, and that immersive experience will get better and better as we improve our AI, right? And of course, this will also be powered by other auxiliary technologies, as I call it, like, better hardware, better 5G, bandwidths and so on. So this is in my opinion, the how of how we are going to work in the future. And now the key question becomes the what. What do we need to do to make this happen? Is this future already here? In some ways it is. I think in many other ways, it is still a little bit ways away, and we certainly need to do certain things to get there. And many companies, of course, are working on it. Meta, and on our part, we are doing our part as well. And this is one of the topics that I want to touch base on, because this could be really important for the practitioners among you, for the if you're going to be dealing with questions like, how do we go about building this? Where should we invest? What should the investments look like? On the other hand, if you are someone who's who thinks that they're just graduating and they think that they could play a key role in building this future, and you're looking at what type of skills you need to upskill yourself on and so on, I think that is the other part of the world. And I think both of these are really important questions to answer. On the one hand, the investments, like I demonstrated in my story to start the talk, they seem a little bit ambiguous in terms of the returns, right? What all do we need to invest in? Like, is the hardware, is the research, and so on. The ROI is a bit uncertain, and so on. And same thing with skills. Like, I think this is a very short talk. It is that the time is just not enough for me to comprehensively cover this topic of what we need to invest in, nor do I think that I have the knowledge to cover it comprehensively. But just given my experience, one of the things that I think, if I were to distill it to sort of one quick TLDR that we need to think about from an investment perspective, it comprises of two words: data engineering. I think this is the key for us to solve, to get into that future of the how that I just described. Why data engineering, right? So if you look up the term data engineering, I'm sure you'll find a lot of definitions on Google, and so on. From my perspective, data engineering, the way I define it, is really the platform that enables AI and enables data science in many applications, including AI, deep learning, and so on. And it is often the area that is very significantly overlooked, right? So when I talk to people in India or in the valley where I live, I think one of the biggest complaints I get is just literally the availability of data. Certainly true in India, but also true other places where we just don't have the standardization of data. For example, we just don't have the data collection policies and so on. And of course, when we are collecting data, we need to be very mindful of privacy and other legal obligations in the jurisdictions that we operate in. But also product designers and product managers and product thinkers need to think very deeply about what data do we really need to collect, and what kind of investment we need to make to be able to eventually get to a place where that data can empower your AI applications. For example, today, if you have a reasonable sort of tech orientation, even if you're not a programmer per se, but you have a really good data set, you could very quickly build a basic chatbot from just off the rack chat AI algorithms, right? So the algorithm part of building these AI applications is extremely democratized already, but it will keep on getting more and more democratized. That is not going to be the key bottleneck of how we solve and build for some of these AI applications in a more effective manner. If we don't have the data, though, even if we make a lot of progress in some of these AI algorithms, the end applications, which is where the developers come in, which is where experts in different industries come in, they will not be able to build on top of it, right? From a skills perspective, this is the one skill that, even if the tools become super democratized, will still be in very heavy demand as we look at this future where we'll be building all kinds of AI applications. So even if you are someone who's a job seeker who wants to sort of move up in the career, etc., I think this is a key skill that needs to be added to your repertoire, to your sort of set of your skills to move forward with AI and sort of move into this future of work. I think India especially is sort of uniquely situated to be dealing with this problem. India, as we know, has had remarkable success in leapfrogging the West and other places on a number of technologies. Payments, for example. When I was in India very recently, there's hardly anyone who was carrying cash anymore. You don't really need to use your credit cards anymore, which is really good. Everyone has QR codes and press a button on your smartphone and you pay. This is leapfrogging. This is not how it works, certainly not where I live, and so on. Another example is fintech in general. I think India has clearly leapfrogged a lot of the technologies from the West, just in terms of transfer of funds and the ease with which it is done, and so on. And so I do strongly believe that building this future of work, building based on AI applications, is a key area in which India is very much poised to be able to leapfrog the rest of the world and to be able to build these applications first. I think the key to solving that puzzle, that if you're able to solve that problem or not, I think the key really lies in investments in data engineering. And the more investments we make, again, from both a product thinking and product strategy perspective, but also from a skill development perspective, I think the easier it will get for us to get into that future. I'll end this talk. I'll leave you with a thought, right, on why this is so important. I always tell my team that a data scientist or an AI engineer, or whatever you want to call them, is completely useless without a data engineer. And a data scientist without a data engineer is as useless as a pen without ink, or in more modern parlance, is as useless as a Tesla without an electric charge. So end my short talk on this topic with that thought, and I will pass it on back to Justin.
Thank you, Aamod, for that amazing session. The topic has surely catapulted a positive future for the workforce.